Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, the Administration of Community Living, and the Indian Health Service, I would like to welcome everyone to the Long-Term Services and Support webinar series. My name is Nicole Pino, and I work for Kaufman and Associates. I will be your moderator today. Today's webinar is titled Protection and Advocacy for the Native Americans with Disabilities. Please note this webinar series is supported by a contract awarded by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. The opinions, findings, conclusions, and recommendations expressed in this webinar are those of the presenter and do not necessarily represent the official position or policies of the Department of Health and Human Services or the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Today's webinar's objectives are to help webinar attendees understand and acknowledge disability from a Native perspective, explain how congregate facilities are monitored for abuse and neglect, share outreach and advocacy success stories. Now I would like to introduce our presenters, Houski Benali and Benita McCurry from the Native American Disability Law Center. Houski is the Community and Government Liaison at the Native American Disability Law Center, and Benita is an advocate at the Native American Disability Law Center. Benita, I will go ahead and turn this over to you. Thank you.
My name is Houski Benali Jr., and I'm from the Navajo Nation, and I'm visually impaired, blind due to retinitis pigmentosa. And back in 1972, I lost a lot of my vision. And so I work for the Native American Disability Law Center as a community government liaison, and also serve as the president of the Navajo Nation Advisory Council on Disabilities. And I'm also serving on the National Council of Disabilities appointed by President Biden.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Benita McCurry with the Native American Disability Law Center. I'm an advocate. Just introduce myself in Navajo as well. So just to give you a brief overview about the Law Center, the Native American Disability Law Center. We are a private and independent nonprofit agency that helps protect the legal rights of Native Americans with disabilities who live in the Four Corners region of Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Utah. And these are people with disabilities who feel that they have been discriminated against because of their disability, abused or neglected or wrongly denied a service. And the areas that we emphasize on are on the Hopi and Navajo communities. So what does the Law Center do? We provide advocacy, referral information, and educational resources to all Native Americans with disabilities living in the Four Corners region. We monitor facilities on the Navajo Nation, and these are group homes, detention centers, etc., and also includes the nursing homes to make sure people with disabilities are provided with the services they need in the least restrictive environment. We also provide legal advocacy and representation in disability-related discrimination, and these are issues around housing, employment, education, voting, etc. We also provide advocacy and legal representation to Native American students with disabilities and education-related issues. And some of the cases that we do receive and we refer elsewhere, these are issues that are not related to an individual's disabilities, legal issues that are related to an individual with disabilities, which would be criminal cases, and we refer those to a public defender or an attorney. Divorce cases, we refer those cases to the DNA People's Legal Services. child custody cases is also referred to DNA People's Legal Services and Social Security benefits. Those are referred to the Social Security Administration.
The Native Americans, there's about 511,000 Navajos Native Americans with a disability. And under the federal government, there are about 552 recognized tribes. But all the tribes have their own stories related to disabilities. But in most of our stories, we have respect and not feel sorry, but also assist. And those relatives, we call them relatives that have disabilities. So today we're going to look at a video called Early Dawn Boy. And this is a Navajo Blessing Way story about our people with disabilities and how we should help them. They say it's our sacred duty to assist and make sure that those with disabilities are taken care of. So this video is about that. And you can also go to the Native American Disability website, and this video is there. There's also another one on the Hopis. So we'll go ahead and watch the video. Shuyat shikation ne kahasinlo. Oh ho. The neni hit niniki han so shi ho. Nika kahanet daholo.
Hosky joined the Law Center initially as the Director of Administration to help take care of some of the administrative tasks. After getting to know him, I realized that he had a deep understanding of the needs facing people with disabilities. He and I were actually driving somewhere, and we were talking about the situation facing many Navajos with disabilities. I can't remember how it came up, but he started telling me the story of Dawn Boy, and it struck me, especially as an Anglo and somebody who's not a member of the Navajo community, it just struck me as just the perfect expression of what we here at the Law Center are trying to achieve as far as making sure that individuals are safe and respected and receive the supports and services that they need.
This story, a traditional Navajo story, is about Early Dawn Boy. These stories it's not mine, it belongs to the people, and it's for teaching. This community of people, they had children with disabilities. Some of them were blind, visually impaired. Some of them had deafness. Some of them had cognitive disabilities, developmental disabilities of various kinds. The thought process of the parents, the grandparents, or the siblings of these children with disabilities began to evolve and change. And they came to the point where they were saying that because of my child with a disability, I can't really go anywhere. I can't enjoy myself. I always have to worry about my child, or who's going to take care of my child. Or if I take my child with a disability with me, then I can't enjoy myself the way I want to. And they decided, I guess among themselves, that they would put him at a place where there's a family living in the Hogan, and they would build a round structure where they would put trees into the ground in a round circle, like a shade house, like a traditional shade house, with the opening towards the east direction. the children were put into this place. Then at certain times in the morning and the evening, they would leave food outside that place, and water and firewood. The children that were more able, they went out there and brought in the food, brought in the water and the wood to build a fire so they could be warm at night. But this, most of the time, the food was just like scraps. It was just leftovers. But they still just took that in and fed each other and were taking care of each other. And nobody really went over there inside that dwelling to see how they're doing. They noticed that there was a young man, like a teenager, over there at that place where the children were. And he was really taking care of these children. And when they put the food out and the water and the wood, he would go out there and gather all that for them and take it in. And then he would feed them. If the food needed to be warmed up, he would be warming it up, giving them water, fixing their bedding, and keeping them warm, playing with them, and comforting some of them that were crying. But they just noticed that there was a young man over there. Nobody really said, who is he, where is he from, what's he doing there? Nobody even questioned them. One morning, this young man came out with these children, and he was helping them along. The ones that couldn't walk, he was carrying them a distance, then coming back for another one, and they were headed in the east direction. And those others that could help themselves, they were helping others, and they were kind of going in a group away to the east direction. And then they went over the hill, and then the people noticed that, but they didn't say anything. The evening time, these children were coming back again, and they were helping one another like that again. This little boy was really helping them along, and if one of them would step on a sticker or something, he would pull it out of their feet, and he would be comforting them, and then they would just take time out and sit there for a while. But when they came from that east direction, they noticed that they were covered with white clay, their clothes and their face, like they'd been playing in the mud. And they came back and they went back into that dwelling. Second morning, they came out again, and the same thing again, helping them, and they were helping each other. But this time they went in the south direction, and they went over the hill again. The evening time, they started back again. They were coming back, and this time they were covered with blue mud. The third day they came out, and where this Hogan is, they went on the south side of that Hogan, and they went west, and they went over the hill again. Same thing in the evening time, they came back, start coming back over the hill, and this time they were covered in yellow mud, and they were playing in that clay, I guess, and they went back into the dwelling. And then the fourth day they came out again, and they went around clockwise around the Hogan, and they started doing the same thing where they were helping one another, going into the north direction this time. And then these people started to think, and they said, one of them said, I wonder what those children are doing. First day they went east, second day they went south, third day they went west. Now they're going north. I wonder what they're doing. So they asked this, they told one of the men, he should go follow those children, see what they're doing. So he went after them, started following them, hiding behind the rocks and behind the trees and the brush, so that those children wouldn't see him. And these children were traveling along. Then they came to a place where there was a big pond of water. And then they sat down by that pond of water, and they were playing in the water, and they were playing in the mud. And that little boy was playing with them. They were just having a good time with themselves. And they were playing in the mud and making little figures and things like that. And then that man, he was looking around. He looked at those children, and he looked way across the pond of water. There was like a grove of trees. And then in the trees, he noticed some beings. I guess you would say spiritual beings. and there was 4 of them. And these 4 beings came across that pond. They floated, almost like floating across. And they went over there to where those children were. And they said these 4 beings that had feathers sticking out of their head. And they were dressed really nice with buckskin and moccasins and real nice jewelry. And they sat down by these children. These children were even scared of them. They just sat down with them and started playing with them. And then they went over to this little boy and that was taking care of these children. They hugged them and they thanked them. And then that man that was hiding behind the tree noticed again. He looked up, and then there was a cloud coming down. And this cloud came across that pond again and went over there to where those children were playing. And then these spiritual beings picked up each one of these children and put them on that cloud. And then they got on that cloud. And then that cloud rose way up into the sky. But when it was rising, it was a real strong kind of energy came off of that. And it knocked this man over, took his breath away. And he was laying there and thinking, what happened? Who were those beings? I guess he was thinking. And he got up and he looked way up there and he saw them disappear. And he just sat there thinking about it, you know. And he's never seen anything like that. So he gathered his composure and he got up and he ran back to that hogan. Then he told the people that were there, he said, our children are gone. He said, somebody took them. He said, they're not here anymore. And all the people, word got around real fast, and all the people started going to that place where the children were playing along that pond of water. And so when they got over there, then they looked on the ground, and there was really perfectly made pipes that they use in ceremonies. Perfectly made bowls that they put medicine herbs in. And then there was little figures of horses and sheep that we put in our corn pollen pouches. And they said they were perfectly made. And these children had left them behind as gifts to the community to use, to pray with and use in the ceremonies. And these mothers and fathers and grandmas and grandpas, they were picking them up and they were crying. And they said, you know, why did we do that to them? And so they decided they would get a crystal gazer to find out what happened to these children. So they brought in a crystal gazer that night. And that crystal gazer told them, he said, you did this to yourselves because you didn't want these children. You didn't want to care for them. That you thought that they were a bother to you. And you're the ones that did this. So the holy people took them back, and you're not going to see them again. And early in the morning, he said, you're going to hear a bird. And this bird is going to be that young man. And that young man is Early Dawn Boy. He's the one that was taking care of these children. And so sure enough, early in the morning, there was a bird chirping outside. So they went out there and they looked around and they went in that dwelling where they heard the bird chirping. So they went into that dwelling, and then where those kids stayed. They looked around, there was no bird. And when they got in that dwelling, that sound of that bird came from all 4 directions, all the way around them, on top of them, and below them. There was not one direction that they could see that where that bird was making that noise from. And so they say that, you know, Navajo teaching is that sometimes early in the morning you hear a bird chirping at your house. They said that's Early Dawn Boy. That's the holy people. And they're there, he's there to remind you that you should have compassion for all people. You should have compassion for those with disabilities. You should have compassion for the unfortunate. That you should learn how to share what you have with other people. And that's a reminder when you hear that bird singing early in the morning. And listen to that bird and think about how you're going to become a better person and have compassion and care for others and change of attitude, taking self-inventory, things like that, you see.
You know, in the Anglo community in the Western world, it took a long time to get there. The attitude that many of us in the dominant society have toward people with disabilities really just started in the 70s. And to know that the Navajo community had this goal and this vision eons before, I think is just a really powerful expression of Navajo tradition. And I think that that's something, again, that Hosky really brings to the Law Center, is his understanding of the role of tradition, his understanding of the language, and his contribution to the Law Center is immense.
Nửa happy Leonard Talaswema yan nửa machiwa nửa yang kichoking ak sepalang ak nửa pefkita.
I've known Leonard Talaswema for, I don't know, 20 years. Leonard Talaswema and his wife, Rhonda, were really some key individuals within the Hopi community who started advocating for the rights of individuals with disabilities in that community.
Now, there's a story about a cross-legged kachina, and his name is Huhua, and he comes during certain dances. He walks in a real difficult way because he doesn't walk regular like other human beings. His legs are crossed. His left leg is on the right side. His right leg is behind him. So he kind of trots along but he's able to walk. Hopis kind of look at this person as an individual with disabilities, But, not only does maybe he has a physical disability, but he has other qualities that he can share with, the people that he comes to, the kachinas that he comes to. He's a real good dancer, and he's a composer of songs. He's a storyteller by his actions and his motions by his hands. He's a humorous person. He makes people laugh. He can be able to talk Hopi. He has a good heart, always being positive, even though with his disability, he's always a positive person. So despite his disabilities, he is able to function and to teach others, of all the things that he came to teach about, and for us to be good to each other and to help each other and to be kind and respectful to each other. That's his teachings. And there's certain kachinas that can't walk, So what happens? How did they get around? Okay. Other kachinas, they have them on their backs, carrying them around. They want to be a part of a ceremony, so they don't discriminate. They bring them with them. And if we have to carry you to the ceremony, we're going to. And that's how they do that.
The Native American Disability Law Center was created by the Protection and Advocacy System in 1994. The basic philosophy that we here at the Law Center have is that individuals with disabilities want the same thing that we all want. We want meaningful work, meaningful opportunities to participate in our community, a safe place to live, relationships. We really feel strongly that in order to enforce your rights, you need to understand them first. Work and employment is just such a big part of maintaining that independence and achieving that sort of self-realization that we all strive for as adults. I think we still have a lot of work to do, and I think that we've got a great group of people doing it.
Those are two traditional stories from the Navajo Nation and from the Hopi tribe. And like I said earlier, other tribes have their stories too. And these stories are teachings about, in this case, how we value people with disabilities. Also, many tribes have what they call medicine wheels. And there are a number of medicine wheels that provide teaching, that provide ideas, in this case, how to advocate for yourself. And this medicine wheel talks about your voice, your hands, your footprints, and your shadow. And this is a teaching again from the Navajo people. They say that when we're born, when we get our first breath of air and our first cry, that we are acknowledged by Mother Earth and Father Sky. We're also acknowledged by the Holy Ones in the four directions. So our cry is acknowledged, that quality of our voice is acknowledged by the Holy Ones. And eventually your voice becomes your manner of speech. It becomes your voice for singing. It becomes your voice of expression and communication with others. And they say that your voice is sacred in a way in which if you put out something that is bad, it comes back to you that way too. If you use your voice for positive things, then you experience positive things. And so with our young people with disabilities, we tell them that what you say is really about how you feel, what you're thinking. And when you say good things about yourself, then that's the pathway that you're going to get on. And so there's many teachings about the voice, but in a nutshell, your voice is very important. Secondly, your hands. And in the Navajo way, they say, that means that your life is with, you hold your life in your hands. In other words, what you reach out for is what you pick up along the way. Your thumb prints is something that's very sacred, they tell us. And then we call it wind swirls. And we had teachings about this wind swirl and our thumbprint even before we started using it on with our documents in the Western world, but we've always had this. And so one of the ways that we use it is like the rainbow. After it rains, it's calm. The many colors of the rainbow. And he thumbs up on both hands to that rainbow. Maybe you had some goals and objectives that you had, and somewhere along the way, you got off of that. And the presence of the beauty of the presence. In other words, what we experience can become our teaching. And we have beauty of the presence is about, at this moment in time, we have that opportunity to begin to change things in our life and then move forward with our footprints again. And so the fourth one is your shadow. Shadow is very important it's a reflection of who you are. And so when you start from your infancy into adulthood, into old age, your footprints tell your story. I mean, your shadow tells your story of who you are, what you have done. If you have abided by the teachings, your shadow is going to be standing straight up. If you didn't, then your shadow is going to show some health situations that might come your way. But that does not mean that we look at ourselves differently. And the shadows will always be with us, they say that. If you don't have anybody to talk to, the shadow is very sacred. And so you can, at night, when you fall asleep, your shadow lays by you, then it leaves you. And it goes in one of the 4 directions and tells the holy ones what you need, what your needs are, what your future is supposed to be like. And then it comes back, lays by you, and you feel that energy from it. It's like rejuvenation. And so your shadow is very, very important. So this is one of the, in a nutshell, this is one of the medicine wheels that we have. And we have many, many different kinds of medicine wheels. Medicine wheels for goal setting, medicine wheels for helping others. And so we have these teachings that we share with our relatives and our young people. And we share these in ceremonies. And other tribes also, they have their medicine wheels. So these teachings we live by, we should pass it from generation to generation. And that's very effective in helping our people with disabilities for self-advocacy. And it's an 8-member council. 5 of them were appointed by President Biden. 1 was appointed by the U.S. Senate. Another one was appointed by the U.S. House of Representatives. And then the 8th one remained on from the previous council. And so back in 2000, President Clinton put out a executive order calling it consultation with Indian tribes. And that didn't get very far until 2019 when President Biden reinvigorated that executive order. And so the National Council on Disability is committed to being able to complete and abide and move forward with those executive orders, that executive order that was made. So in May of 2024, we're going to have a public forum in Navajo country, and now the National Council on Disabilities is coming down to listen to what some of the issues and needs are of Native Americans across Indian country. So it will be on Zoom, it will be in person, so it's hybrid. So we're asking you to look out for that. We're going to need your help. And the National Council on Disabilities has inroads to the president's office and up to Congress. So here's an opportunity as Native Americans to be able to bring forth our needs and issues and then to put it and create policy with it. So I just want you to know about that also. Thank you.
This is a huge map I wanted to share. These are the monitored congregate care facilities, group homes, and day habilitations across the Navajo Nation. And we monitor these facilities on a quarterly basis. There are 55 homes located in New Mexico and Arizona mainly. We oversee 166 residents that live in the congregate homes and partake in the day habilitation programs. As mentioned, the Law Center monitor facilities across the region, such as the group homes, residential facilities, and detention centers to ensure people with disabilities are provided with the services they need in the least restrictive environment. People with, as Teresa Ann, our executive director in the video mentioned, People with disabilities deserve the same rights to make informed choices and have access to the broader community and integrated employment just like everyone else. And to make note that the Law Center does not advocate for anybody to be in the congregate care facilities or the long-term care facilities. We try to encourage them to live as independently, respectively within their own communities. So another one of the services that the Law Center provides is a benefits enrollment center. So this is funded by the National Council on Aging, and we have been BEC since 2018. We focus on connecting Medicare beneficiaries with limited income to benefits that pay for healthcare, food, and more. And these are around Social Security, supplemental income, low income home energy assistance program, the supplemental food nutrition assistance program, SNAP, and any other benefits that they would qualify for once we conduct screening. We do a person-centered outreach. We go out into the rural communities. We speak one-on-one to individuals who are 65 years older and individuals with disabilities 21 years and older. So it's a great opportunity for us to go out into the rural communities and share the information that would benefit our elders. And this is one of the success stories of a recipient or a client that we assisted. We assisted Ben, who is a 36-year-old Navajo man with a traumatic brain injury who's from Gallup, New Mexico. Ben is a single parent of 2. He is self-employed and makes and sells jewelry. Ben contacted the Law Center's Benefits Enrollment Center to get assistance with supplemental nutrition program. We were able to assist Ben by filling out the SNAP application online. Additionally, Ben qualified for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, Medicaid, and the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program that helped him with rent, as well along with the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. During the past 11 months, the Law Center has helped over 226 elders and adults with disabilities receive the benefits for which they are eligible for. So our office, we have 2 locations in Farmington, New Mexico. Our main office is in Farmington, New Mexico. Our other office is located in Flagstaff, Arizona. And as mentioned, we cover a huge area on the Navajo Nation, 27,000 square miles, with the Hopi Reservation right in the middle. And so there is our contact information, our toll-free number, and our website information. Thank you.
Thank you, Benita and Halski. That information was very informative. This is our time for questions now. So we'll be addressing the questions already submitted in the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen. So if you haven't submitted yours yet, please do so now or use the raise hand icon and we'll get to as many as we can. So let me go ahead and read the first question. Are there any other law centers that serve Native Americans with disabilities? Or is there a similar program in California and Washington?
Unfortunately, no, not particularly targeting the Native American communities. In California and in Oregon, each state has their own protection and advocacy agency, and we're under the umbrella of the National Disability Rights Network.
Perfect. And we have another question coming in. For folks from other tribes, can they connect with your resources even if they are in other states?
Yes, we can. Yes, they can. We would do the referral source. We would do a warm send-off, connect to the agency that would be able to assist the individual. And we would give the agency a call and let them know, John has called our law center and, would be able to assist John. And that would be the warm send off.
Great. Next question. There is often disability issues mixed in with child welfare. How do you address that intersection between lawyers from child welfare, since they don't always adequately address the disability rights?
We have attorneys that specialize in the education. An attorney, Heather Hoax, is our attorney that specializes in child welfare. And I am not in a capacity to answer that, but she would be the one to address that. We do intake process, and we do have our attorneys that serve as guardian ad litem. We also do have a social worker on board. We're a staff of 15, and there are certain, a few of the attorneys that specialize in different areas of the law.
Great, thank you. There are a couple of comments that I wanted to address in the chat. One of them stating the medicine wheel is new to me, but this is a great way to be. The next one, just wanted to thank the Native American Disability Law Center for all of your amazing work and support. So that's some great feedback. Thank you. There are some more questions coming in from the Q&A box. From Jenny. Would the Native American Disability Law Center be able to assist in distributing information to folks in Colorado?
Yeah, we work with the Southern Ute and the Ute Mountain Tribe in Colorado. We also work with the ARC of Southern Colorado as well, that does a lot of referrals to the law center. And if it's not within our service area, then we would refer them to Disability Rights Colorado.
Great, thanks. From Clara, do you support domestic violence victims, or are they referred outside of the organization?
So if a person is in a DV relationship, and if they do have a child that would require special education assistance, then we would be able to assist that family. But in regards to providing direct services, we would refer them to a local agency.
Okay. Next one from Bobby. How do you work directly with Social Security, IHS records, and disability determination services?
Okay, and again, we have another attorney that specializes in not directly with Social Security issues. I apologize, and that would be an issue we would refer to the Social Security Administration. But if it's around employment, for example, or discrimination, employment discrimination, we would refer that to our attorney that specializes in those cases.
Great. And one more question that came in from Marcy. Who do you work with in Oregon?
In Oregon, that would be Disability Rights, or the other P&A out in the state of Oregon. I don't know the name of it offhand, but we would refer them to the P&A there in the state of Oregon.
Perfect. Let me see if there are any more questions come in. How does the Native American Disability Law Center prioritize the work they do for people with disabilities?
So each year we have public input. This is where we create our priorities and objectives. What do we need to focus on? What is the main concerns that people have out there? And a lot of it is around community integration, outreach, and supporting Native American children with their special education programs. Those seem to be the top, the issues that come as a main need for us, for the law center to prioritize each year.
And do native languages have a word for disability?
And I'll let Mr.
What's the question?
Mr. Benali answer that one.
Okay.
What's the question?
Do native languages have a word for disability?
Not really. I don't think there's a word. Different tribes and different ways just kind of have a description for it. But for the actual word of disability, I'm not aware of any. I know with the Navajo Nation, they say Atahaza, which means there's something on them or they're carrying something, but that's not the accurate description of a person with a disability. Basically, it goes back to respect, goes back to them also being a special person despite their disability. Like they say, don't look at the disability, but look at the person. That seems to be pretty universal, even with Indian tribes.
Great, thank you. Referring back to the earlier question on who would we work with on in Oregon, we did get someone to let us know that that organization would be Disability Rights of Oregon. And also, if the individual is on Medicaid, there is also care coordinators to assist with getting individuals the services they need. So I just wanted to share that with everyone on the call. The next question we have from Jenny is, do you have certified benefits planners on staff? And if so, do you find that they need specialized training on understanding tribal benefits or resources?
Yes, we do. We do. My colleague, she does, like, for example, the Navajo Nation has their own LIHEAP program. And the Navajo Nation receives block funding each year. And she's pretty much familiar with that program. We also work closely with the states in New Mexico and Arizona. We are connected with their state health insurance programs. So we do utilize those resources.
Great. And we had another question come in. If someone is denied SSI benefits, do you have recommendations for someone who is facing changing physical abilities or disabilities coming from Washington State?
Okay, and again, any Social Security issues, the law center, we do not assist with, unfortunately, and we refer them to a local attorney that does specialize in Social Security.
Great. Thank you, Benita. Going back to the chat, we have a question from Anita. Do you work on long-term services and supports for mental health?
Yes, we do. We haven't had very many cases around mental health issues. But a lot of it is around developmental disability that we get a lot of cases on.
Great, thank you. We do have about 4 minutes left in this meeting. I just wanted to remind anybody that if you have a question, please type it in the Q&A section on the bottom of your screen. And I will leave it open maybe for the next minute or so, and then we can start closing things out.
Yeah, and a lot of our resources are available on our website along with the video we shared. We do also promote employment. We are currently working with our local vocational rehabilitation with the tribe, along with the state DVRs as well.
I got one more question. This might be one of the last questions. Do you have qualifications for what makes someone disabled?
When we do an intake, we do determine eligibility of an individual that does have a disability. And we are federally funded through the protection and advocacy. For example, somebody with a developmental disability, we would use the PAD funding. Somebody that has had traumatic brain injury, we would do the protection and advocacy for somebody that had experienced that. We also do have funding for somebody that would require accessibility or accommodations in accessive technology and communication. So there are different federal fundings, and that's how we determine, if a person that does have a disability when we do our intake. And if there is, the fundings available and we run out of our protection and advocacy for individual rights pair pretty quickly, because everybody seems to fall into that category.
Great. And one last question. Do you work with centers for independent living?
Yes, we do. Here in Farmington, we work with the San Juan Center for Independence, and there's an office in Gallup, New Mexico as well.
Great. Looking at the time, let me squeeze in one last question. Since you monitor the residential sites, are you working with any of the tribes to consider the impact of the CMS proposed minimum staffing requirements for long-term care facilities?
I am currently on a network with the state of New Mexico. There has been a lot of turnovers with self-direct care support staff. Those are some of the issues. When I do conduct monitoring visits, for example, there's always somebody new. And I would introduce myself, tell them who I am, why I'm there, that I'm there to talk to individuals. Yes, we are a part of a group, again, as mentioned, to address some of those issues.
Perfect. Well, we're at the top of the hour, and I just want to be respectful of everyone's time, but I really do want to thank Benita and Housekey for joining us today. We had a lot of great feedback that this was a great presentation, so I appreciate you joining us today. In closing, I would like to remind everyone that today's webinar was recorded and that the audio and presentation slides will be made available online at cms.gov. And again, thank you again for joining today's webinar. Our session is now concluded. Thank you so much.